what are the things in here then that most grab your attention? In this class, like what are the things that grab your attention the most? You sit up in your seat, you're like, whoa, okay. Hang on, I gotta zoom in on this.
So you guys all said you were fairly open-minded and willing to challenge your viewpoints. Yet through the lens of religion, there's so many aspects that aren't allowed or, you're not supposed to do. So how much of that open-mindedness, like, are you willing to go test these things that are outside of your religion?
Whoa. Every class is different, okay? And I'm kind of scouring the news and I'm checking things out people send emails. People tell me after class, hey, why don't we talk about this? Or when are we going to talk about that? And then people fill out the volunteer form and some people say certain things in the volunteer form and I think, oh man, okay, that would be a cool class and da-da-da-da-da, okay? But honestly, this is a class that's race, ethnicity, culture, and culture is everything. And half international and half US-based, which is basically everything, okay? So when I think about grabbing attention, what would be most helpful for both you all as students in this period of time, in this place, and as citizens of the world? What would be most helpful? What's most useful?
For me, it is the faith stuff, but next to that, it is, I would say, arguably civic action. And maybe not action. I don't know if action's a great word, but I took a course. It was CAS 137H and 138T, and it talks about civic life and rhetoric within it, and it shows you how to advocate for things that you're adamant about within your society and how to help and make a difference by doing that.
So for you, we were able to set a class up so what's really grabbing people's attention would be the things that would allow them to engage in some kind of civic action.
Yeah, discussion, debate, discourse. Yeah, like somewhere where we can move forward a little bit.
All right, somebody else.
I feel like for me, I like when there are people up here that are like really different from things that I've experienced. So I feel like it opens your eyes to like other cultures or beliefs, and because I feel like we're all really divided, and it helps like bring people together because like you can understand where someone else is coming from.
How far do you want to be open?
I don't know, however far I get, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's a question, right? So some of the stuff that you see that is you perceive to be anti-Semitic, for example, right? How much of that have you stopped to look at and be like, hang on, man, oh God, this is gonna be tough, but I'm gonna dig in and listen to what's being said here, like that kind of thing. So how far do we go?
I mean, I feel like when I see stuff like that, a lot of people like blame Jews for the war when really it's the government. So like all of the people in those countries, I don't think that they hate each other. So like when I see people blaming the Jews, I'm like, okay, well, it's like not all of our fault. It's just the government.
So it's like Latham here hasn't said anything that makes him sound like a radical Muslim who hates Jews. So like whatever. Okay, all right. So it's very similar in that way. So for you, what you like to see is when you see people up here who are different, you hear things that are different from you, and then you can just work on that. Yeah. Okay.
Are there levels, in your opinion, of anti-Semitism, or would you say like anti-Semitism is just anti-Semitism across the board?
That's a really good question.
Like sometimes I'll see stuff and I'm like, okay, that person's just like not being nice, but I wouldn't say that it's anti-Semitic. Like I would say like where like you can see that they have like their own set beliefs where like it's because you're a Jew and not because of like something else of that person.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I would agree with that, by the way. That's how I see it myself.
I did like in this class that you get to see like a bunch of different like people come up that have like different backgrounds from different parts of the world, and you get to learn about them, and it kind of like like will help you like see a different side of something that you might believe in.
So what are the things in here then that most grab your attention? In this class, like what are the things that grab your attention the most? You sit up in your seat, you're like, whoa, okay. Hang on, I gotta zoom in on this.
I mean, I feel like religion's definitely one. I know we've been talking about that, but like, just hearing like you know, like you've had like a bunch of Muslim and Christian students up here, and like you do today in Jewish. Like just hearing like how they think about certain things as like a Christian, you know, it just helps me to see like, you know, their views on things and how they grow up with their religion compared to how I did.
Okay. And that you see, just for example, like Latham here is just being Latham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'd say my attention is grabbed when, like, as you were saying, when people talk about perspectives that are different than mine, and they explain why they believe that grabs my attention, because now I get to understand from the person who believes something different than me.
And when you see that, what happens for you?
I gain a better understanding of why they believe what they believe.
And that's important to you because
it's better to move with a better understanding than to just be closed-minded and only understand your perspective. And also, you can't really conversate with someone with a different perspective without fully understanding why they believe what they believe.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question here. How far are you willing to open your mind? Like how far are you willing to open your mind?
I'd say pretty far.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the Islam thing. Do you know where I'm going here?
Not really. I'm ready.
So, you know, there are a lot of people who, Garry, the Willard preacher, for example?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I'm going to give you an example. So I know Garry quite well, actually, and he and I have done a couple fundraiser debates. They weren't really debates because I don't debate, but I just happen to think that Gary's a really interesting person. So for my first 25 years here at Penn State, Garry was just a Christian. A Christian. You Christians know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
He's just a Christian.
I know him. Yeah, I've spoken to him.
All right, Gary's just
Gary.
a Christian. And like non-denominational, he's just being Garry. And Gary does what Garry does because his point is to capture people's attention, you know what I mean? And get talking so that people stay when everybody leaves. A few people stay, and then he has conversation, which is cool. I mean, that's it. That's his job, man. That's his job. And his job also is to teach you all how to argue. Because if you ever tried to argue with Garry, you probably lost. Because he's really good at what he does, because he does it every day. And so, you probably lost. You're not getting that in most of our classes. We're not getting that. But anyway, Garry, okay, Latham, I'm coming to you. Get ready. Hold it tight. Garry one day starts a conversation with this guy who's Greek Orthodox. I found the truth, Garry, and you don't have the truth. I have the truth. Now, this is Garry, y'all, right? You know, right? You know who I'm talking. But by the way, if you're watching on the stream, we have a building here called the Willard Building, and Garry is, many universities have these kinds of people. The Christian preachers, they come and it's their job to go every day and they stand in the same spot and they preach the Gospels or, Anyway, so that's Gary's job. So he convinces Garry and Garry converts. Gary's no longer a Christian. He's Greek Orthodox. Oh, all right. Okay, got it. That's pretty big. If you know Garry, that's a big deal. Okay, Latham, how far do you want to go? Because if you really learn from Christians, for example, it's possible you could just decide, you know what? We should have stopped at Jesus, the Messiah, and not gone on to Muhammad, peace be upon him. We didn't need that extra Messiah, the extra prophet, for example, right? We should have just stopped at Jesus. And you could decide, you know what? I've done the investigation, I've studied, and it's Christianity. Or forget about Jesus entirely. I'm just going to go back to Judaism. Allah. We're just going to go to God of the Jews was good enough. We should have stayed there.
I'm willing to go far. I actually studied in a Catholic school for a few years in the UK.
Oh, my God.
I've been to church many times. They gave us water and Vimto juice.
Yeah.
So
did you ever do communion by chance?
I did not.
Yeah,
no.
they probably wouldn't. The Catholics wouldn't let you. You have to sneak it, by the way.
There you go.
I'm not Catholic, but I've done communion in a Catholic church a lot because it's fun.
But yeah, I believe the more I research about other faiths, all it can do is strengthen my faith in my religion.
But what if it weakens your faith? Are you is that okay?
It is because I believe, there's only truth. So if it
Yeah,
weakens my faith and it brings me towards another truth, I'm ready.
Well, no, okay, so if there's another truth, you're ready.
If there is, yeah.
Yeah, so you said it was kind of a crooked path. Because this is a Muslim thing. It's called the straight path. You go straight to God, right? And you don't diverge and all these things. As the Christians have the same thing, but y'all just I don't know, y'all accept a lot of things that, well, Muslims accept a lot of things too. Like this new casino down the road. I thought in a Christian society, I thought we're not allowed to gamble. What is that nonsense? All right, anyway, are you allowed to gamble?
There's nowhere in the Bible where it says that you cannot gamble. It just says that you cannot serve God and money. So there's a nuance that's embedded in there.
All right, there we go.
So
God and money.
You could gamble, just be wise and
give all your winnings away.
I mean, you could do that, but in Scripture it says all things are lawful but not expedient.
This is how it happens.
Yeah.
People just make stuff up along the way.
Well, I mean, that's what it says in Scripture.
Okay, well, whatever. Yeah. All right. So listen. Okay, so you're open. Okay.
So you guys all said you were fairly open-minded and willing to challenge your viewpoints. Yet through the lens of religion, there's so many aspects that aren't allowed or you're not supposed to do. So how much of that open-mindedness are you willing to go test these things that are outside of your religion?
Whoa. Do you want to take that one? How far are you willing to test yourself, man?
So with college, I'm definitely new or down to try new things, eating new food and stuff. But I mean,
how about going to a mosque, bro? How about going to prayers with Latham?
No, I'm not.
You want to try it? Would you do it?
No, I don't think I would.
Why not, dude?
I mean, I just feel like it's the way I've grown up and what I've learned, and I believe that my religion is the right one.
Nah, but dude, it's not about that. It's about a cultural experience. It's just to observe. Bro, for example, when Muslims, you line up. So the first time I prayed, can I just do this? First, I was in the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, and I was, this was before I converted accidentally, but I was sitting meditating in a Buddhist meditation. I was just sitting in the mosque, and I feel this, and I open my eyes because I was deep in meditation, and this guy tells me to move up, and and I look, and I realize, it's called a prayer, man, and it's filling up. And I went, all right, man, here we go. So I go and I stand in line just like this, and I'm watching everybody, and I'm watching how their hands are, and I'm like, okay, and I'm doing my hands the same way, and then so we start, and then I just follow everything that everybody else was doing, and it was so cool. Because I was with all of these people. Well, they were all men. Because, you got this thing of males. And Christians have it too, but whatever. So do Jews, by the way. Anyway, it was cool. It was just cool. It didn't make me more Muslim. Dude, look at that right there. It's massive. It's huge. It's like the size of a half of a football field, or probably 2/3 of a football field. It's not about converting. It's about having an experience. Because if you want to know Latham right here, if you really want to feel this guy's energy, because he seems like a cool dude, right? Go with him one day. That's why you would go.
What I would say is that for me personally, I'm more of a theological, intellectual guy, if you kind of get that. Yeah. So I would say for me, the reason why I would not partake in specific things or would partake in specific things is because I reached a level of reasoning behind my belief, which would have to be discussed through discourse and kind of not disproven, but you would have to challenge it significantly for me to say that, okay, if I think this is idolatry, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to say, this is an idolatry, here's why. And through that, then I would mind, but you're going to have to get through that first.
Okay.
Through the intellectual wall.
I bet if we did the rabbi thing, I bet I could push through it, man. Okay, and the thing is, it's not about your head. It's about this dude right here, man. This Latham guy. What would they know about you, bro, if they came to, I don't know, Friday prayers with you? What would happen? What would happen for them, do you think?
I think they would enjoy it. I think they would see the community, and they would see how everyone shakes each other's hands and everyone is smiling at everyone. and everyone is welcoming everyone, you know, they'd see the sense of community.
What would make that valuable sociologically?
Because they'll see that there's something strong connecting everyone. There's something keeping everyone in a certain line, acting a certain manner. People have a very strong shared understanding and are all acting in a very similar way. People are very careful how they're talking, not to speak too loud, not to bother anyone else, to be extremely generous and extremely welcoming to everyone.
So would you say it's very similar to a Catholic Mass, right? So you've been to a Catholic Mass. It's very similar. People walk in, they do, you know, you do the cross, and you sit down, and you do. It's very similar, actually, but different. Why do you think it would be valuable to go to Latham's, to go to a mosque for you?
Just to like open my eyes to see how they like practice religion or how they interact with one another. Because like I feel like from my family specifically, my parents also my mom comes from the Middle East. And my grandparents are like, I wouldn't say they don't like Muslim people, but they're very like apprehensive about them. So like there's a lot of like, even my mom like says she's not biased, but like there's some things that she says where I'm like, that's like not true. But like she's like under the impression that Muslim people don't have the same sense of community that like Jews do. Where I'm like, I don't think that's true, because they're both like religions or just cultures that are in the Middle East, and like Middle Eastern people like as a whole are like very community oriented. So like I feel like even for her or me, it'll be valuable to like just see that with your own eyes.
Yeah, you really do see it. But you know, but there is something. First off, the longest hatred is the hatred against Jews. And I don't know why. I do know why. We could do a whole class on it, but we're not going to. And it has meant that there's got to be a unique connection between people who are Jewish, because it's like you've been like on for almost 2 millennia on the outs constantly, you know. So there is something unique about Jewish community, but there's something unique about Christian community and Muslim community as well, especially the worshiping. Because I've been to synagogues, and I'm like, what's going on here, man? Is this a religious ceremony? What's happening here? You know what I mean? But you know, you don't miss that.
Going back to what grabs your attention, and we were talking about I feel like there's a level of guilt when we were talking about like, oh, I should be looking at this instead of saying like clothing or sporting. And I just wanted to see if you guys were like picking up on that.
Fundamentally, I think it's the fact that we're all sinners. We all miss the mark, right? We all need Jesus. We all need the grace of God.
Well,
and
he doesn't need Jesus, and she doesn't need Jesus.
I mean, that's a personal opinion. Yeah, but what I would say is that, like, as far as the should, right, there are things that you could argue we should do, but as I said, like all things you can do, right? All things are lawful, but that doesn't mean they're expedient. That doesn't mean it's the best thing for you spiritually.